Welcome back to another Read and Correct with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Todd, the Tiger's supervisor. These are where I read each chapter of a story and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. If you want to support me, you can buy the book or go to my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 23 of A Familiar Death. Trembor turned in his seat again. He's following us. What is he afraid we'll do? Flee to town? Wouldn't that be interesting? Force him to chase us out of town, only to see his face when he realizes he's trying to bring us back. Benerick was behind them through town, and when Marlot parked in front of the clinic, the Lynx parked his truck next to them. He eyed Trembor angrily as he stepped around the car to the trunk. It clicked open, and Trembor grabbed the body, making sure the tarp was still properly wrapped around it. When he took a step toward the clinic, the Lynx was in his way. What do you think you're doing with that? Taking it to the freezer? I don't want our meal to spoil. Don't bother, you're not going to be here that long. So the RI's in there? Marlot asked, indicating the clinic. How should I know? Then why don't you go check her new office? If she's there, tell her to meet us here. If she isn't, find out where she is and pass along the message. Benerick glared at his wolf. I'm not here to run your errands. Marlot shrugged. Well, in that case, go tell your grandfather that we'll be staying until the RI informs us in person that she's taking over the case. The Lynx growled and got back in his car. Trembor watched the car speed the 2 block to the enforcer's office. How long do you think it'll take him to realize this is the best place to find Arana? Marlot opened the door and moved out of Trembor's way, just long enough for someone smarter to point him in the right direction. So probably as soon as he talks to Naria. His wolf unlocked and opened the inner door. The buffalo stepped out of Naego's office, bat in hand, a moment after the door closed. What? She began, then stopped. She stared at them. And sisters, what have you two been doing? Trembor patted the package over his shoulder. We had an early dinner. Did you have to roll in it afterward? You look disgusting. Trembor smiled and Arana took a step back. We like eating wild once in a while. Now, if you don't mind, I want to freeze what's left. She moved out of the way. There's a shower in the surgical suite. Use it. They passed her. What are you doing back? I asked you to give me the whole day. Benerick interrupted our meal. Benerick interrupted our meal to tell us that they had an RI, Marlot said. Had to mean the council had assigned everything. He wouldn't have dared act without his grandfather's okay. What species is that Benerick? Lynx. Arleon is his grandfather. He's also the town enforcer. He was the one hurrying everyone along. They wanted to argue every point of the contract. If not for him, I'd have been there all night. Marlot went ahead to open the door to the freezer. I'm not surprised. Arleon is the one who blackmailed me into coming. Now that I'm a reviled tail raiser, he has to shoulder the responsibilities, so he wants me out of here as fast as possible. And because the enforcer is his grandson, he uses him to run errands? Arleon uses everyone in town. All the councilors do. But I don't think he ordered Benerick to find me. He and I have a history, so he probably just checked with his grandfather the moment he heard that we hadn't left. His wolf placed a hand on Trembor's arm. I'm going to shower. Trembor smiled. I'll join you once this is in. Arana kept her face neutral as she turned and headed back to the office. Trembor dumped the body in the closest freezer drawer and then followed the sound of the shower. He got out of his bloody clothing and joined his wolf under the water. Rubbing the blood out of the fur made Trembor's own blood run hotter. But Marlot didn't let him play. He kissed him and enforced a cleaning policy. Kissed him and then enforced a cleaning policy. Marlot had to run out damp and naked to grab their suitcase from Naego's office, and when he came back, his ears were deep red. Dressed, they returned to the office, and Arana's eyes were pink as they sat down. Are you taking over the case? Marlot asked. The buffalo put her pad down. Before I decide, I want to know where it stands. We don't have the killer, Trembor said, but we have an idea who he is. She canted her ear inquisitively. Marlot shook his head. We don't have a name, just a general idea, based on what we think the motive is and the sequence of events. She nodded. Lay it out for me. His wolf took a moment before replying. About 6 days ago, Urion Roundpoint, one of the commune's medic, brought a sheep to Naego. Is that common here? Arana asked. In the other towns, only the commune medics see to the farmers. It isn't. She was having a problem with her pregnancy that Urion couldn't resolve. Naego didn't make specific notes on her file, but he took blood and a sample of the fetus. He sent that both to a lab. The blood result came back quickly, but there was nothing unusual in them according to what Naego wrote down. There was no indication the fetus result ever arrived, so I called the lab and it confirmed it was couriered to Naego. Before you ask, no, that isn't common. Usually it's sent electronically. It got here 3 days ago. I checked with the courier company. Naego died 5 hours later in the council chamber and was discovered the next morning. When did you get here? In the afternoon. Arleon contacted me in the morning and tried to convince me to take the case, but I wasn't interested. He resorted to threatening a vegetable shortage to get one of the city officials to force me to agree. And you know why he was killed? I suspected the moment I found out he took a sample of the fetus. The only reason to do that is if he thought that the baby was mixed breed. The fact that he received the results but didn't enter them into the sheep's file supports that. As you know, town folks fooling around with the farmers isn't looked on kindly. She nodded. He went to the council chamber to confront the father. Why there? Wouldn't it have been easier for him to do that here? Naego was a councilor himself, and it was after hours. The council chamber is one place he could be certain not to have someone walk in on them. So the father killed him. Why? Did the medic try to blackmail him? And why didn't he just pay his tax? Naego wouldn't do that to someone. Naego wouldn't do something like that. He would have been angry, but he wasn't someone to take advantage of others. My guess is that they fought over aborting the pregnancy. She was past the 3-month mark. The 3-month mark, Trembor continued. Killing the baby would constitute a predation of an underage cub. But why would they fight over that? Arena asked. I'm no medic, but even I know that crossbreed cubs don't survive, especially not between prey and predators. Marlot nodded. But they don't abort naturally at any specific stage. If the pregnancy kept going, it's possible that when she miscarried, the cub would have clear indication it was mixed breed, and I'm guessing that the father's species is distinctive enough it wouldn't have taken much to identify it. At least, that's what he was afraid of, so he tried to convince Naego to end it now, when no one could tell without the help of a lab. That's all you have? The sheep indirectly confirmed the father's on the council, but she wouldn't give us his name. He also sent someone to kill her. We permitted that from succeeding. So you can get the name off the hired killer. Marlot shook his head. Trembor indicated the hall. He's in the freezer. She didn't immediately react to what he'd said, then her eyes widened. How did that happen? Marlot sighed. I was hungry, and he threatened Trembor. I lost control and killed him. She rubbed the base of her horn. Predators, you and your stomachs. You and your stomach, she pursed her mouth. But the sheep is still alive, right? Marlot and Trembor and Marlot nodded. Then you can get her to tell you. We already tried, Trembor began, but Marlot stopped him with a raised hand. You said we can. Does that mean we get to keep the case? Of course you can, she replied. I'm not setting foot in the middle of an ongoing case that involves someone on the council, especially not after you ate one of the few leads you had. Marlot nodded. Are you willing to assist us? The sheep, Lamia, won't tell us who the father is. She's terrified of him, and as predators, we're not really calming her. Yeah, I'll assist. Okay, then I suggest we meet back here tomorrow. Why not go now? Trembor shook his head. We were there earlier and she was attacked. We need to give her time to rest. Aren't you worried the father's going to send someone else? Not this quickly, Marlot said. For one thing, I don't think he knows the attack failed yet. Urion called Baneric, and Baneric called Urion. Urion called Baneric, and Baneric called Arleon. Arleon, but they wouldn't have a reason to tell anyone else. Wait, no, that doesn't work. Where are we? What happened? Okay. Urion called Baneric, and Baneric. This. Urion called Baneric to let him know the attack had happened. Baneric called. That's not needed, but he. Urion called Baneric, but he wouldn't have a reason to tell anyone. But neither had have a reason to tell anyone else. Thus, investigating, the father can't just walk up to Lamia and ask if everything's okay. Neither has a reason to tell anyone else. For another, the only place he can hire a killer is from the city. I don't expect one of them would want to get here in the middle of the night. I'm confident we have until mid-morning before we have to worry about another attack. She rubbed her muzzle. I'm going to make a few calls, see if there's words of an out-of-town contract floating around among the killers. I doubt there's a lot of demand for killers in the farming communities. Trembor's ears went up. You have contacts? You have contracts? You have contacts? Wow, a lot of mistakes slipped to my editor on this one. You have contacts among hired killers? She shrugged. A couple. Not from here, but someone I know should be able to put me in contact with a local. Trembor exchanged a look with his lion. Really? How the... With his wolf. Don't go thinking anything. I'm not a predator, so I wasn't one. I just hung out with a few of them. And no, I'm not going to tell you if any of them happen to be involved with organized crime. Not your jurisdiction. Tremor raised a hand to placate her. That wasn't what I was thinking. I'm just surprised. I was an enforcer before coming in RI, and hired hunters are tight-lipped about their contracts. And that isn't going to change, so don't pry. She stood. All right, if I need to contact you in a hurry, where are you staying? Here, Marlot said. He shrugged at her expression. No one will let us stay at their place, not my parents or even the rooming house. We're undesirables. I'm pretty sure Baneric will try to kick us out the next time he comes by. No, he won't, she replied. I can't do anything about how the town treats you, but I'm going to have a word with him. Him, I can do something about. I'll let him know how things stand and what's going to happen to him if he bothers you again. Marlot grinned. Any chance you can record that? I'd love to see his expression when you put him in his place. She leveled her gaze on him. Her angry gaze on him and his lion, and Marlot swallowed. I'm not in the entertainment business. The only thing I record are for official business, and only the people who need to see that get to. Am I making myself clear? Yes, ma'am? Marlot squeaked. She left with a snort. The outside door slammed shut, and Marlot looked at him. I didn't know it was possible for his prey species to be this fierce. Turnberg nodded. She reminds me a little of Serene. Marlot shuddered. Yeah, she has some of your mother's iron. Turnberg looked around. Is there anything case-related we need to work on tonight? Marlot thought about it. I can probably find us something. Why? Turnberg pulled his wolf to him because I want to work out where we're sleeping, then make sure you're exhausted. Marlot smiled. Let's make sure the door's locked first. And this concludes chapter 23 of A Familiar Death. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the whole story as well as the others in the series, that is, they're available on all major e-retailer. If you want to support me in a different way, that's on my Patreon. And if you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. The links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.